episode 8. So this is Geoffrey Hoppy channeling Tobias, our guide and storyteller. Nikki, tell us about this episode.
So, as I said yesterday, one man, one vessel, and 3 voices. So we start off by interviewing Geoffrey and asking him about his experience of what it is to be a channel and what the experience is like for him in his physical body and how he knows who's coming through. And then he takes some time and he adjusts and brings Tobias through. And we're all very familiar with Tobias by now. He's the guide and storyteller in the film, the narrator. And he's a very grandfatherly type. He loves human beings. He loves the Earth experience, or our Earth experience. And so halfway through, he mentions that Adamus is there in the wings wanting to come in. And again, Geoffrey adjusts himself as Tobias leaves and Adamus comes in. And Adamus is a very different energy. He was last here 200 years ago, a French aristocrat. And he's very angry. Not angry, he's very...
Direct.
He's very direct and very arrogant. That's what I wanted to say, arrogant. But what they both hold is this extraordinary compassion for our human experience. But they're very different. And so we thought it would be really interesting to show Geoffrey with these 2 spirit beings that he brings through and answering some of the same questions very differently.
Very differently, yeah. So I can't imagine what it's like to be a trance channel. I mean, I'm a huge believer in this thing. But you, Kuala, in your tradition, in your tribe, do you commune with spirit?
This is where everything has begun. In the earth-based tribes, those that are birthed into traditions, this is the communication that comes in from divine creator source. We simply are the vessel. So for those that are listening and watching, keep this vessel clean. You receive the messages. Open your heart and you will know this is not something new. This has been ancestral. Remember from heart. You will hear new messages.
And now we have some very exciting news for you as well. We have been inundated with people requesting to see the early episodes, especially those people that got invited through friends who only got into the series on day 4 or day 5, and they're going, well, no, why can't we see the episodes? And we said, well, because they're only up for 24 hours each. So we always said this is going to be a 10-day launch. So the surprise for you is that at 8 p.m. UK time on Friday night, we are going to open up access to everything. So you will be able to watch any of the episodes that you missed. You'll be able to watch the movie. Well, the movie's up the whole time anyway. But if you did miss any of those episodes, you're able to do so. You can do this at any time that you want between 8 p.m. UK British Summer Time on Friday night through to 8 p.m. UK British Summer Time on Sunday night. We added the countdown timers to the pages because people were like, it's really confusing. I'm in Iowa, or I'm in Australia, or I'm in New Zealand, or I'm in Brazil. What time does it finish? So that's why we added the timer to make it easier. So yes, you have access to everything until Sunday night. And if you would choose to invest into the package, to buy the physical or the digital version, either with a one-off payment or the 3-part payment that's now available on the green button above, then you're able to do so. But the cart will close at midnight on the 10th of May, which is the Friday night. So a week Friday, the cart will close, and then that's it. You cannot buy that anymore. So if you're thinking about it and you're on the fence and you're on the edge, then please do, and remember you're backed up by our 30-day money-back guarantee. So for any reason it's not what you want, you just let us know and we will refund you your money. But without further ado, I think it's time that we go to this final episode where we hear Geoffrey Hoppy channeling Tobias and Adamus in Channeling Our Guide and Storyteller.
work with a variety of entities, Tobias being the most common, Adama Saint Germain, and Katumi Lal Singh. Generally, I don't really know who's going to come in, and I kind of don't want to. Once in a while, if it's going to be a difficult channel or something my human self has to know about in advance, they'll come in and tell me. But most of the time, it's at the last moment. I go through a sequence before I actually go into the channel state, and I don't really want to call it a trance. It's more of an openness. And as I go through this type of surrendering and opening up, a lot of times it's Saint Germain today, or it's Cthulhu, and they each have a very distinctive energy. Tobias has had many, many lifetimes on Earth, and Saint Germain is a very regal, French, arrogant, obnoxious, but very loving entity. His most recent lifetime on Earth was about, I would say, 250 years ago. He has had a lot of experience on Earth, but he'll tell you exactly like it is, and he'll push my buttons, he'll push the audience's buttons, and then he'll laugh about it because he says, I have to do that to help get you out of some of that, kind of the hypnosis that we're in. And they are not aspects of myself. They're truly outside entities. Well, when I go into the channeled state, it's hard to describe. It's a surrender. It's an opening up. It's taking down all the walls and the barriers that we normally keep up. Even people who don't realize how spiritual they are tend to put up barriers to keep outside energies out, whether it's other humans or other entities. It's like having a big wall around you all the time. In this channeled state, it's taking that wall down and going into a place of complete trust and openness, but also choice. My choice that I will be there for Tobias, Saint Germain, or Cthulhu, and I don't particularly want a bunch of outside energies. As I go into the channeled state, there's what I call the golden moment. It just flows over when I make that connection with one of the entities. I get a chill from the top of my head all the way down to my toes, and it just reoccurs over and over again. So I know at that point I've made the connection with them. During the actual channel, it all depends on the channel itself. There are times when I feel like I'm watching a movie. I'm sitting in the seats in the background, and I'm just listening, and I'm also seeing a big picture as they're talking. There's other times when the material is very difficult or challenging or beyond my human comprehension, where I have to really focus, and it can be like plowing through mud, and every word is challenging and difficult, but other times where it's just on autopilot. Yeah, Shambra is a term that Tobias first introduced in, I think it was about 2001, a year or two after we really started working closely with him. And it was a surprise to me. And also during channel, when I hear a strange word, I have to stop and literally get Tobias to spell it out in my mind's eye. And it was a beautiful word. And he said it actually comes from the old Hebrew words Shaham and Barah. And I'm not saying this with proper Hebrew enunciation, but it basically means family from home or family from the rock, solid family. He said that actually in the time of Yeshua, many people would know as Jesus, there was a group at that time called Shambra. They were very closely associated with the Essenes, and they would meet for the purpose of allowing the divine energies to flow down into the density of Earth. And it was, they would meet in secret because they had to at the time. And many, many of those who knew themselves as Shaumbra 2,000 years ago come back now as Shaumbra again. It really means right now an awakening human. It's a complete trust. It's a surrender. It's an opening up when I make that connection with one of the entities. And so it is. Let me begin before answering your question with a welcome to this project of yours. This is the type of thing that we've been talking about for many, many years with Shaumbra and with the awakening, the speakers all around Earth. It's taken a bit to get them to actually do it, to go beyond their fears, to schedule this type of thing, to invest in it, to plan it, and then to let the plans go, as you know, to have a heart for it. So we want to add our energy into this, into your project. Mass consciousness. I'd have to say that those who you would call the ascended masters, we do not so much like that term, but we have gone beyond. We've gone beyond the need for being on Earth, the need for reincarnating, the need for any type of any other entity. You might call this ascension status. We call it going into your third circle where you are truly a sovereign being. And in this place, we disassociate with mass consciousness. You have to in order to be sovereign. You can understand the dynamics of mass consciousness, but you are no longer a part of it. You are absolutely sovereign. We encourage every human on Earth right now to disconnect with mass consciousness. That doesn't mean that you're going to go off alone on your own. It means you're going to discover yourself on your own without all the overlays and what Saint Germain would call the hypnosis and also the lies of mass consciousness. With the new energetic changes, what we call new energy or the new consciousness is having a tremendous effect. It is literally changing the way everything is being done. But let me start at from a high-level perspective. You could say that on an individual basis, right now what is happening is the old human consciousness or your human identity is making an evolution, let us say a quantum leap, going from beyond what you have known as the functioning and your relationship with your physical body. The DNA is being reworked, and beyond that, there is what we would call a spiritual DNA that is being reworked. There's another very important thing that's happening right now, is the mind has been used for processing, judgment, storage of data, and it has been considered perhaps the most important attribute of a human. You're going beyond that right now, beyond the limitations of the mind. This is not to say the mind is negative in any way. It's not a bad thing. It was just a limitation. So you're going beyond that. Imagine now thinking and feeling and knowing not from your mind and not just from what you would call your heart, but from your entire essence, where you're not processing information through this brain, you're not processing emotions through what you call the heart, and you're not processing feelings just through the typical human senses of the eyes and the ears and the mouth and these other things. So it is an incredible transformation, one that the mind cannot comprehend. So this requires a very large degree of releasing and allowing and trusting. Everything about you is evolving right now. Now what happens is the individual human generally tends to try to hang on. They're frightened by what they don't know. They know that they're crossing a chasm, but they want a guarantee or an assurance that they're going to make it to the other side. Here's a point of standing at the edge of that chasm, not knowing how deep it is, how wide it is, how dark or how light. Standing there in your physical body with your physical mind saying, these parts of me tell me I cannot possibly get over this chasm. I don't have the strength of my legs to jump. I don't have the intelligence to build a bridge over, or the tools. So how am I going to get over? You know that it is part of your chosen destiny to cross this chasm into the what we would call the high consciousness human. So how do you get there? You let every old preconceived notion, every old limitation, and every old understanding about yourself go. And then an amazing thing happens. You just become. You find yourself on the other side of the chasm, but not the self that was on the other side. So they're incredible challenges for any human right now. Challenges that cannot be addressed in the mind. Challenges that you're not even going to be able to find the ultimate answer in books or even in videos like this. Comes back to yourself, your choices, and your trust. The magic is already within you. It is about you allowing yourself, your divine, every part of you, to come and play in your life right now. So, you'll just get it. And one thing about Nost is that when you have connected with the divine answer, you just know it. You don't have to second guess it. You don't have to analyze it. It is what we call a moment of aha. You just know it. Now, one challenge. The answer that comes from Nost is generally not the same answer the mind would come from. So there's a tendency for you to second guess or doubt yourself or this answer that you have received. So you either fear it or you put it aside. The important thing is to follow it. It's going to provide you with an answer that you could not possibly have come out with before. A solution that is so elegantly simple and easy, you're going to say, why didn't I think of that before? So it is the fourth leg of the stool. The body, mind, spirit, and Nost, or your creative solution. Thank you. Well, first let me say that I have spent many lifetimes in Israel. There were certain energies that were pre-planted in earth, Gaia came in with, and energies that would provide ways to balance the angelic essence while it was in human form. Energies that would allow for the eventual evolution of the whole journey on earth. And of course, one of these places where this type of energy was put within the crystalline structures of Earth was in the areas of Israel. It lay dormant for millions and millions of years, and it was activated, you can guess it for yourself, about 2,000 years ago. Somewhat before that, but the main activation was 2,000 years ago. The energies in the lands of Israel have to do with the eventual integration of divine energy or God energy into the individual humans while still walking on Earth. Not waiting until after they died, but while they're still walking on Earth. Over a long period of time, these energies in Israel were even intensified by the whole human experience, and certainly intensified by many of the things that have happened in Israel from the times of Abraham, through Moses, through Yeshua, and into the current times. Israel and its neighboring countries, you could say, become a focal point for the understanding of true God on earth right now. It's not that the answer is there, but it is a focal point. The world is watching what happens in Israel. They're watching the conflicts. They're watching the battles. They're also watching the evolution and the many beautiful things that are happening there. I'm disappointed at times because I tune into your news and your information through you, of course. We don't have TVs up here. But I tune in and I hear the stories that come out of the Middle East right now are the troubling stories. But someone has forgotten to put in the good stories. The stories of Palestinians and Jews working together. The stories of churches of many different religions working together for unity and harmony. This is actually much more prevalent than any of the problems that are there right now. But back to the point. The world is watching this because the world is watching their own association with God. One of the biggest things that is changing on earth right now is the individual understanding of the self, the human, with God. And then eventually the acceptance and the integration of that God part within themselves. For far too long, humans have separated themselves from God. And the churches helped play right into this, putting God off somewhere else as some strange, twisted higher power. Right now, one of the biggest changes in consciousness is about the true understanding of spirit and self. So Israel and the lands surrounding it are an important tool to help you understand the changes of consciousness relating to God. Not that Israel or the Jews are the chosen people, or that it is a protected country. It is because the energy of humanity right now has gone beyond some of the old conflicts. Consciousness has changed to the point where it will not allow the type of atrocities that have happened in the past. And again, because of the crystalline energies in and around Israel, the human consciousness, no one can destroy the power of the individual divinity represented through the lands of Israel. It depends who you're talking to when you ask about which modalities of healing are going to be the most effective. It really depends on a person's consciousness. There are humans right now all across the earth who are going to benefit from what you would call your modern medicine right now that don't have access to it. Things that you take for granted in some of the what you would call your developed countries, the basics of medicine. That would make an incredible difference on them and their spirit. That's one level. The next level is other humans who, right now, they're not going to accept anything that they can't see or pain that they can't feel. So they are very stuck in what you would call contemporary medicine or solutions. This is a group of people who basically are not taking ownership for their own health. They are expecting a doctor or a hospital or a government to take care of them. And it is all played out, it is acted out appropriately. They get a pill, they get a surgery, they get some type of radiation treatment or laser treatment, and they feel better for a short time, perhaps. Because their consciousness is at that point. They're not taking responsibility. But we're not talking to that group here. We're talking to a group who is opening to a higher consciousness of themselves. To this group, we're going to bring it down to a very basic, rudimentary thing. Your body and your mind already know how to heal themselves. Stop for a moment. You choose, close your eyes, take a deep breath. You have pre-planted everything you need, either within your physical body structure or in the energy fields right around yourself. You've brought in all the tools with you. Remember, you're an angel. Why would you not bring the appropriate tools? So your body already knows how to heal itself. But because you've fallen out of trust with yourself, with your body, and because basically you've actually locked up that healing, self-healing part of you, so you could experience what it's like to have different types of diseases and illnesses and aches and pains. But it's now time to go beyond that. It's time to give your body permission to heal itself, while not getting all, as you would say, goofy in your brain about it, while not debating whether or not you can really do it. You just do it. Your body already knows how to clear itself of cancer, or of arthritis, or of anything. Now, we're not talking about the vanity issues of just wanting to stay young looking. We're talking about serious physical imbalance of the body. The body knows how to clear its liver very, very well. The body knows how to go through an interesting process that happens about every 3 or 4 years, where it literally goes in and reworks the heart from an energetic standpoint and eventually physical. But humans never stop to do this. They're relying on some outside therapy. They want to either know it comes from a pill or surgery or a crystal or a mantra or the latest type of water that you take. And every time the human does that, it basically sets this self-healing capability one step further away. If you want to heal, it is as simple as making the choice. Sitting down, taking a few deep breaths, do this for a number of days in a row, obviously, and saying, dear body, you know how to heal yourself. I trust you, dear body, because you're part of me. Now I let you do it. Amazing thing happens here. You redevelop a trust with your body. Your body will start to cleanse itself, and you may get sick for a short period of time. You may get sick enough where you have to stay in bed for a week. Your body is doing exactly what you asked it to do. It's detoxifying. It's clearing. It's rebalancing. It is more miraculous than any of therapy you've ever done in the past. Once you get into this new attunement with your body, it does it much faster, much more efficiently. And then if you want to use outside things like a little bit of relaxing water therapy or incense or anything of this to make your time with the biological rejuvenation a little bit more pleasant, that's fine. But it's about accepting the responsibility and knowing you can heal yourself. Take a deep breath. And the advice for the shift, the shift is happening on many, many different levels, and it is going to happen naturally. Don't get caught up in other people or countries. Don't get caught up in the dramas of things like energy, oil running out, food shortages. These are all just side effects of change. But they also have a very beautiful and positive side, which most humans don't understand. They're going to help very quickly facilitate the bringing in of new energy, new agricultural methods, new solutions to Earth very, very quickly. Don't get caught in the drama. The world's not coming to an end. The world is having a new beginning. Focus on your own being. Allow your own natural changes. And the challenge I have to every one of you, individually, can you trust yourself to allow your own natural changes and evolution to take place? Not putting it in the hands of some other being, not even putting it in the hands of mass consciousness. Do you love yourself enough to allow your natural process of ascension to take place? Then get out of your mind. Enjoy every day of your life, and it will happen. Tobias will continue to answer for a moment here, and then we'll shift over to Adamus, if you would like. The technology versus consciousness, and actually it is always consciousness first. Consciousness opens the doorway for technology. We'll use the case here of Tesla. Tesla was able to tap into not only his consciousness, but the consciousness of inventors all around the world, including Edison, and including many other basement or garage type of inventors who had wonderful concepts or ideas. It's created a consciousness pool. In that consciousness pool now, an individual inventor can go in and develop a technology. But the technology is interesting physics to it. The technology can never exceed the consciousness at all. It raises many interesting questions, and it raises what you would call science fiction type of questions, but technology will always follow consciousness. You'll never evolve a technology greater than what consciousness can handle, whether it is an atomic bomb, whether it is an internet, whether it is anything else. Now, it begs the question, because consciousness is very broad and vast. Consciousness is both identified and unidentified, or aware and non-aware. So the question is, at what point can you go beyond the consciousness that you're normally aware of into those very far realms of consciousness to develop technology? Well, human consciousness, mass consciousness, will only allow up to a certain point. Individual inventors and scientists, physicists like Tesla could actually go into consciousnesses that were not generally broadly aware of, but they could never adapt it back here. They could never make their concepts or their inventions successful because mass consciousness wouldn't allow it. So we're going to ask Saint Germain to come in, open up very, very clearly here. Saint Germain is just he's doing what you would call spiritual breathing over here. He doesn't have a physical body, but he's allowing himself to be shown. I am that I am. Adamus Saint Germain, Grand Ascended Master, and you are not. Let us begin. I concur with Tobias's remarks that technology cannot exceed consciousness, but the question really becomes, where is the line of consciousness right now? But I'm going to add something to it. Technology right now is pushing consciousness. You see, let's say you have consciousness right here. Technology is so closely behind it. It is pushing it. It is forcing it. Because where have you ever been able to get information instantly? And the ability through your internet to do that pushes consciousness every day to an uncomfortable point. So where have you ever had the ability to do things that you're doing right now, this instant recording and then the instant distribution, that pushes consciousness. So technology right now is like a wave that is right behind a primary wave, and it keeps pushing it. Consciousness, in my opinion, human consciousness is lazy and lethargic for the most part. But now you have technology kicking it in the ass. Everything about technology is generally mimicking what can be done in the other realms. So you have this thing about the internet and instant access, and it creates a literal grid, a physical grid, and it is actually mimicking the energetic grids actually within yourself, you see, first. Because every atom, every molecule, every strand of DNA, and every space between the space within your body is interconnected with each other. They communicate with each other constantly, instantly. It is only when you screw it up by thinking about it or trying to mess with it that it doesn't work so well. So the next step is the interconnection of human consciousness. It is done in energetic levels. It is somewhat electromagnetic. It goes into other type of plasma energies and light energies and beyond light energies, but there are all these incredible, wonderful matrices that are out there. So the next natural step for humans, for some humans, is to go beyond the need for the internet, for a computer, for servers, and for all this data flow in a digital form, and humans to be able to connect with each other, communicate with each other very accurately without any of these other tools. There are going to be scientists and researchers who are going to be able to monitor this, both on an energy flow level, but also the ability to receive packets of information. It will be done faster and more efficiently than your computers. So we're already working with many researchers. There are, I don't want to get in too deep into it, but there are many researchers who are on Earth right now who have their origins back from the times of the Knights Templar, the Illuminati, and the Freemasons. They were very closely associated with these groups in lifetimes past. They chose to come to Earth now, and they've been coming in the past 60 years, but primarily in the past 20 or 30. Many of them are in their about 25, 35 years old right now. They have made a very specific choice to come back to Earth and become engineers, physicists, chemists, and scientists, and a few mathematicians. Even though they would have preferred to go into spiritual studies, they understand the need right now to be on Earth as researchers, quantum researchers, and they're not going to get stuck in the books and in the old rules the way some of the other researchers have. They bring with them some very strong skill sets from these lifetimes of the past associated with these groups. They're going to help those who are what we call the consciousness workers, those who are like you, delving into the new frontiers of consciousness. They're going to help validate the work that is being done by the consciousness workers. I do not so much like talking about assigning numbers to dimensions because they don't work that way. So let's first clear that from the slate. What you're really asking me is, how do we expand the consciousness of the work with the film, both coming and going? Meaning, how do we bring in some of the non-physical energies into this, and how do we expand the consciousness through the use of the media that you're working with right now? Quite simply through choice. What you have right now gathered here in the room are approximately 823 angelic beings. And yes, we come with large entourages. These beings are in the room here. They're in your equipment. They're partly in you. They are very much a part of helping to flow in what we call multidimensional energy. So that is, you, the listener, are listening right now. You're not just hearing words. There is a lot of other things going on. We're not manipulating you. We do not want to. We cannot. We're not trying to sell you anything. What we are doing is creating a safe and expansive energy for you, a safe space that you can now safely explore parts of yourself, parts of your consciousness, things that you play with at night in your dreams, but you don't dream of doing it when you're wide awake. So we are basically adding a potential to this work of yours right now to expand that. In terms of expanding the consciousness of this production that you have, the most valuable tool right now is the internet, for both your clips and for both the promotion of it. But every night when you go to sleep, you dream. Whether you remember or not is beside the point, but you dream. There are certain nights when you are doing future probing type of dreams, where you are looking into a new form of solution. But until quite recently, you've not been able to bring those back in, or if you did, they were just little bits and fragments. The doorway is open now for those who are bold and daring to bring back much larger parts of the dream consciousness back to Earth. Instead of there being a veil or a point of separation where you can't bring it back, it is opening up. So when you are working on this film and you work with those who are assisting you, now allow yourself to bring back more of the what you call dream consciousness into the film, into this project itself. It will allow it to spread in a way that your former plan that you had for this film didn't account for. And by the way, let that plan go. There's you've developed a greater plan, and it's far grander than what you thought it to be. This is a common problem. How do you work with old consciousness in bringing out a new consciousness product? And how do you work with old consciousness financial systems and distribution systems and all the rest of these? I'll make a simple statement about that. You demand from them what you want. You don't come in under them. You come in telling them what you want. There's an interesting lesson to be learned for all of this. Right now, believe it or not, old energy, which would include humans and systems and programs, it wants change. Old energy wants change. And it wants somebody or some group, some beings to come in and say, we're doing it a new way. It's a relief to whatever old energy it is, an individual or human, a family member, a business associate. Now, they will challenge you at first because what they're really challenging is, do you believe in yourself? But they truly want you to have the answers. They truly want you to be successful in this. So you just demand it. And one of the things that I've always taught in my mystery schools is that you don't be fooled by old systems. You tell them what you want. You hold very firmly to that. They will give you what you want. Let's take one at a time here. The new feminine energy. Well, I'm going to say that's a bunch of crap. There is no feminine, there is no masculine, there is no separation. These are all illusions. Tobias is sitting with Linda right now laughing quite hard because he talks about feminine energy and discovering your feminine side and all of these things. I say that these were just aspects of you. Yes, coming to the point of understanding your own unity and your integration, you do have to understand that you had a feminine and you had a masculine, but get beyond that very quickly. You are you. That is it. You are the I am presence on earth. Forget about coddling to the feminine or strengthening the masculine or any of these things. The sooner we get away from that, the sooner I can work with you on some of the true high-level studies that we're going to go into. Absolutely not. You will not be using the same type of crystalline energy. Atlantis was 500,000 years ago and a lot more. It was a different consciousness. You see, there was an natural energy that was embedded in the earth through the entity of Gaia before angels ever started finally descending to earth. And the crystals held, you could say, angelic energy, a very universal energy. It was needed on Earth at the time, otherwise the angelic beings would have never been able to survive in this harsh reality called Earth. Back in the times of Atlantis, which was not a wonder time, it was an evolution time, the crystals of Earth, the ones that are in the stones and the rocks, actually held an energy, just like you could say a reservoir of oil underground holds an energy. Back then it was in the crystals. In Atlantis, it was known how to tap into that energy, but it was used up for the most part. There's still some buried at the deep inner levels of Earth, but let's not go there. There was more sophisticated energy than what came from the crystals. Much more sophisticated energy than what comes from the dinosaurs, who are now your oil supplies. The energy that is available for the new humanity is very clean, is very simple, and is extremely abundant. It comes in several forms, but it is all free. Now, the question I have back to you, to all humans, are you ready for that? Can you handle free and clean energy? What are you going to do with it? Are you going to use it for the betterment of yourself and the betterment of the planet and the betterment of the other parts of the universe? It may exist in different dimensions, but there are other parts in the universe that are waiting to host angelic beings in a somewhat physical form after the development of the new energy sources on Earth. But is humanity ready to handle that kind of energy? Will they use it for the betterment, or they use it for the destruction? Humans are this close right now to these new energy sources. There are researchers and scientists who, again, were part of the Illuminati and part of the Knights Templar and Masons, who are one half-breath away from developing these. They do not quite know it yet here, but they are so close to it. They cannot get over this next hurdle right now for the final development of new energy sources until humanity answers the question for itself. Can you handle it? You may say the answer is obvious. Well, certainly. We're tired of paying high prices for gasoline. But think of the implication. Who's going to control it? Who's going to distribute it? Who will keep some wild, fanatical, religious zealot from using it to blow up their neighbors or the entire planet? You see this question of consciousness and technology. See how they work together. Until the consciousness of humanity is at the point where it can accept free and easy and clean, these technologies will stay in type of a psychic laboratory, but they will never be implemented on Earth. So it is a question for all of humanity. Can you handle it? That there will be an energy source that is magnificent? What would you do? I ask you, dear one, what would you do with energy that was abundant and free and clean? Interesting question. I've been trying to get you all to feel for the longest time. Feeling is divine, thinking is old. Tobias and I disagree about some things, but humans going to the heart, it just means drama and chaos, and then they go back to the mind and more convicted than ever that that's all they can handle. I want to see humans who can actually feel, who can use every part of themselves, who can transcend the mind and transcend all the drama and truly be themselves. What an amazing principle. There is such a lie right now on Earth everywhere. It is amazing how the lies are everywhere. It's in your news, in your government, in this whole thing about oil. The lies are in your schools. It is amazing to watch. They're everywhere, and people buy into them. They believe it. Humans have forgotten how to feel on their own and to be discerning and to take ownership for themselves, so they buy into this pool of lies. This proliferation of lies has caused energy to get stuck once again. And part of our job is working with humans like you who intuitively understand it, but you're tiptoeing around it. It is time to transcend this I don't even want to call it an overlay of consciousness, but it is a thick, heavy mud of consciousness on Earth right now. Earth is the evolution point for the rest of the cosmos, for angelic families way back home, for the development of the many new Earths that will come to be. There's one new Earth right now, we call it the laboratory or the library of the human consciousness potential that could be. But right behind that are thousands and thousands of other new Earths that are ready for birthing in different dimensions, different parts of even in your physical universe. I get so tired and so impatient by, well, some of the sugar-coated spiritual egotism. I won't even call it work, but and I have to tell you, I'm being very direct here. There was an old agreement that was made, approximately 1,200 years ago in this land, in this area, and it was agreement about protecting its natural beauty and its natural qualities. There were some incredible energies here. That agreement was not upheld by those who made it with each other, and particularly in very, very recent years, this agreement to keep this as a place of peace and serenity and meditation and honoring the earth has been distorted. That's one of the other problems on earth right now. You're being bombarded with energies from everywhere, and you tend to take it all on as your own. Take on only what you want and keep it simple. Don't buy into the lack of abundance. That is not yours, but yet you choose to, I'm not talking to you specifically, I'm talking to all, but you choose to take that on for some strange reason. These strange, I'm amazed sometimes, there's strange thoughts going through all of your minds. You know what they are, and you're ashamed of them, and you wonder where that vile thought is coming from. It's coming from your next door neighbor or person in the next city, but you own it. You take it like it's yours, and you blame yourself then. You think that you're a bad person. It is not your thought. It might be coming from an aspect in a past life. Or it might be coming from a time in this lifetime when you were in a difficult situation. It's still not yours. You feel guilty about it. You feel like you have to carry it around. Nothing is yours anymore unless you choose it. Nothing. You're going to say, well, that's perhaps selfish. That's not at all. It's being self-loving. It's understanding for once and for all who you are, that you are totally a being of choice. Thank you. With that, dear friends, Tobias and I, and of course our dear and charming Linda, who encourages us to be the way we are, we bid you farewell. I am that I am, Adamus Saint Germain.
What a gift! I mean, it's amazing that a human being can channel other human beings. I mean, what an incredible gift. Spirit beings, yeah. Isn't it true that he just was on an aeroplane and he started to hear this voice in his head, and it was Tobias?
Yeah, he started to hear voices, and it took quite a while to share that with his partner Linda. And it's not every day you start to hear voices, and that's the story.
Oh, Yukwala, what did you take away from Tobias and from Adamus?
This is the greatest reminder that all that are listening, watching, all those that are the inhabitants of the Mother Earth. We are the conduit for all of Source to come through. Watching this reminded me to be able to be more open and understand that every element that we come across within the day-to-day is Spirit speak. Keep the vessel clean, then the information will begin to start flowing.
Thank you for sharing. So I said just before you watched Channeling Our Guide and Storyteller that we had so many requests for people to be able to catch up on the episodes that they missed, that we have decided to release everything, or to open everything up for the entire weekend. So as of Friday evening, 8 p.m. UK British Summer Time, you will have access to all of the episodes and the movie until Sunday night at 8 p.m. British Summer Time, UK time. So you've got access to all of that, and even then we're having so many people that are supporting the project by investing into the digital package or the physical package. There's a video on that page where I explain exactly what you're going to get. You get a whole host of things, but one thing we haven't talked about is the bonus episodes that you get if you buy the package.
Yeah. So at a date to be announced later, we have, going on from Geoffrey Hoppe, who you just saw in this last episode, we're going to go on and watch another 4 different channels. All of them, when we interviewed them, we asked them to tell us about this time from their perspective. So we have Helen Barton channeling John the Beloved. We have Ronna Herman channeling Archangel Michael. Pepper Lewis channels Gaia. And Wendy Kennedy channels the Pleiadian Collective. So you're getting very, very different perspectives through channel about this time we're living in. So fascinating, and a perfect 4 to follow on from Geoffrey's last episode in the series. And then we have another 2 bonuses. One of them is a short piece from the 8,000 drum ceremony back in 2004. It was the very first ceremony that we filmed.
Is that the 8,000 drums?
8,000 drums, and it was they put out a call to people around the world to fulfill a 500-year-old prophecy, and they had to ensure that 8,000 people were drumming, and it was fulfilled on that day. So, and it was beautiful, just a lot of really beautiful ceremony, beautiful outfits, everything, costumes. So, and then last of all, there is... Remind me, what's our last one?
Mark Cuthbert.
Mark Cuthbert, who tells a story, a Fruit of the Rose story. It was his awakening, and you saw a tiny little bit of it at the beginning of the film, but he explains in full how he was kidnapped by pirates, and Somali pirates, and he and his crew really were facing death, and how he befriended his captors and transmuted that whole relationship until they freed them. So yeah,
turn the story around wonderfully, because he's a beautiful man. Well, I think this is the last video we're going to make. We spent 8 days sitting on this sofa together.
Yes.
We don't get off it in between time. We just sit here and chat. There'd be nothing going on in the background. We just want to say a huge thank you to you. You've got all the way to the end if you're watching this, and we hope that you've had an amazing journey. Yukwala, I just would like to say, this was completely unplanned. Nikki and I hadn't planned to have you with us here every day, and it just transpired that you came over for the premiere of the film, and I hope you'll agree that the wisdom that you've given us throughout, and the grounding. I mean, Yukwala was walking around the house smudging us. Every time I'm stressed because the technology's breaking, just comes over and gives me a little healing and touches these points on my body, and afterwards I feel, everything's going to be all right. So thank you.
It has been a pleasure.
For being
Blessings,
here with us. And finally, thank you to you for all of your work, for your unwavering tenacity, for your drive, for your passion to bring this information out there. And I hope that you are feeling that it was all worth it, having read all the beautiful comments.
I'm just overwhelmed by the response. And whilst we're on our Mutual Appreciation Society, thank you to you, because Teo's done an extraordinary job on building a really highly sophisticated platform to carry all of this traffic for everyone to watch and to link up with bank accounts, and you've really done an amazing job, and I could not have done it without you.
We're a good team.
Technophobe.
So people are going to ask what's next. We were talking about this the other night, weren't we? We're a bit excited. Well, because there is potential we will relaunch Time of the Sixth Sun later, some point in the future, but we have no idea when, as another 10-day series. But we're also working on ideas that we might do for sort of Time of the Sixth Sun 2, as it were. So we've got plans. You will not be hearing the end of us, or the end from us. Yukwala, thank you. Nikki, Luna, thank you, and thank you
Blessings.
for your support. And I'm going to say it one last time. If you want to support us and you've really enjoyed this 10-day process or this 8-day process so far, then please do consider purchasing the package. The money will go to the Indigenous, 10% of the funds, 10% going back to our speakers and our contributors and all those investors that allowed this to happen, allowed you to view all this content by graciously giving us money. It would be so nice that we can give that back to them so that they can then give it to other people, to allow them, empower them to do their own projects. And anything that is left over the top means we will have budget to make more beautiful projects
and
like this.
These were private individuals who were touched enough and believed in us enough to deliver, to get this baby to the screen. And that takes an incredible amount of trust and belief to put big chunks of money in. And no one ever asked for a contract. They've always believed we'd do it. So. Yeah.
And here we
I'm thrilled. I'm so thrilled.
11 years later, we have done it. Thank you. And remember, if you'd like to stay in touch with us, join our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Time of the Sixth Sun, the movie. And you'll go on there and you'll just see the outpouring of beautiful comments that people have been making. And you join yourself to that conversation.
And we're going to be doing lots of little releases of various little snippets throughout this summer. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Yes, we will. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Blessings.